Shalom. Kol Halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Hakar Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. The 144,000 and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen that look like those heathen, the Israelite foreigners. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago. And this is a video put up by Jimmy Dore, comedian Jimmy Dore, political analyst and comedian Jimmy Dore, who he's has a guest of Alex Jones. And and they're talking about the decay of New York and the decay of society, and it's literally happening right before your faces, and it's going to bring and breed chaos. And the end answer to this all is is that they want this chaos to come so that they can come in with the solution that they already have prepared, but they have to wait for you to ask for it and be so desperate for it because they already know if they try to do it now, it's going to be pushed back, and that being the MOTB. All right. And if you don't know this stage in the game, what the MOTB is, then it's probably already too late for you. All right. But you can, if but you can go read Revelation, the 13th chapter, starting at the 16th verse and read on down, because that's why the world is going digital. That's why they're pushing for digital, so they can insert something in you and be able to track and control you and control your purchases and even what you look at and talk about what you say on the internet. All this will be regulated and controlled through that thing because all roads lead there. But there's going to be utter chaos and wars in society before that happens. All right. And right now, they're really going in on Defense Secretary Austin. The man got sick. And was in a hospital, bedridden and damn near like comatose. And and then while he does that, they do an airstrike on Yemen and just go and just bypass the judicial branch of the that branch of the government, Slovakia, that they control, and just does what he want. The executive branch, you got your judicial branch, and everything is supposed to be balances and checks and balances, but there's no checks and balances anymore. And I keep saying it, that they have laws in this country that would actually run a society pretty decently. If people actually followed them and if they actually meant what they meant about all men being equal and all the bullshit that they say and actually gave justice to everyone, but they never have. Sounds good on paper, looks good on paper, and they never followed it, not even for themselves. All right, and so the president just can order a airstrike. He has to go to Congress. And together the council decides if they're going to do that. He just can't do that, but he did it. And is he being impeached? No. But they're focusing on a man who got sick. This Jake, who's the defense secretary with a bald face. But hey, that, you know what? Aligning yourself with Esau, Edom. You sleep with how the scripture go, who shall pity the snake charmer? You playing with snakes. I saw some stupid video of some dude putting his head in the alligator's mouth, and it clamped down and shook his head and damn near broke his neck. And you can hear him screaming in pain, and he couldn't move his head. All right, he might even be paralyzed. Dummy. All right, how can you pity someone that does something that's stupid, But trying to find the scripture. I think it was Psalms 52. Salakia. Yeah, Psalms 52 and 4. Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. All right, so that's what they do. They devour you, but it's with all deceit, because the defense secretary had nothing to do with this strike on Yemen. And if the man was really sick and in a hospital and comatose, how could he report in? All right. That like that's ridiculous. If someone had a heart attack and was unresponsive, how could you get mad at them for not reporting in? All right, but nevertheless, all is a distraction, and all these things are also happening because remember the list. No one wants to talk about the Epstein list. They don't want to talk about it. Why? Because the people in the White House were on that list. People in the Pentagon and in Hollywood are on that list. All right, people who are actually on serving on duty now is on that list. So they need events to keep happening, to keep popping, in order to not talk about it, not to put it in the headlines. Just like you're gonna barely see anything in the headlines about the sewer Jews or the people in the tunnels under the grounds under the ground, in the tunnels and stuff coming out the ground, because it did look like he was coming out of a sewer drain. All right, but they're not gonna talk about that. All right, they don't want focus on that, and the reason being is that the Edomite always has to be the appearance of the good guy or the person that's right. So I'm not shocked that they were going to blame it on Defense Secretary Austin, a so-called black man, or to put focus on him for getting sick and not reporting in instead of just facing up, dealing with the issues at hand. But I want to play some of this video and just bring out a few scriptures. All right, this is not going to be a long video.
That's called mercenaries. Yeah, this is kind of how Rome ended, no? And yes. So
he said this is how Rome ended, and that's exactly what happened. And Rome was ended by the so-called black man, and Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, tried to cover that up. All right, Negroes ruled, and they was kings and shit. All right, they ruled all of Europe, North Africa area, and they ruled it for 1,000 years from the fall of Rome all the way up until basically the 1400s. All right, 1492, Portugal and Spain fell, was like one of the last Negro strongholds in Europe. All right, Spain and Portugal fell. All right, and then there still was Germany was still controlled by black people in the so-called black people in the 1700s. Ben Franklin wrote about it in his letter in 1751. All right, and there's many relics and evidences to prove it. They just refuse to look at it. And that's what Edomites do. When you present evidence, receipts, they just, close up their ear like the deaf adder and la 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 la, like they don't hear it, like they don't see it. Or they'll just look over, turn the page, and just continue from the new page with their face on it. This is how these people operate. Total cognitive dissonance and in total denial of truth. All right. But the things that are happening now, they will not be able to, let me take this back again. They won't be able to ignore this stuff. But here we go.
Serve in their own military in their own country. They want to go to a foreign country and serve in their military. This is according.
That's called mercenaries.
Yeah, this is kind of how Rome ended, no? And so he's giving the game away there. He says it right out in the open. We have to fill our military with foreigners.
Like cops and our farms.
And have be our farm workers, have them be our medical workers, and our military, and have them be our cops. This seems bad. Well, it's so bad. Here's what Eric Adams says about it.
We're seeing the erosion of the quality of life that we've improved on in such a short period of time of this administration. And we have been impacted. For many months, we were able to keep the visualization of this crisis from hitting our streets, but we have reached a breaking point. We're no longer able to do that because of the volume in numbers. Just last week, we had 3,900 people that arrived here. We are averaging anywhere from 2,500 to close to 4,000 a week. And if you do the math, you see that's 8,000 every 2 weeks, potentially 16,000 a month that we must feed, clothe, house, educate children, and all the services that you would give a normal adult.
Which is very hypocritical for him to say that, or anyone in his country, all right? Because they weren't even doing that for American citizens, for the very homeless that are here, including homeless veterans. And it's going to cost about $461 billion a year to take care of all these new immigrants that have come into the country, which are overwhelming the healthcare system, overwhelming the tax system. It's your already broke Americans who are have to flip the bill on this on the other end, when they're not the ones who created this problem. The higher ups and the people in charge are, which eventually people are going to get sick of, and this is going to breed a civil war. I promise you that, and an uprising. And Rome did fall in the same matter. Now they want to bring in foreigners and make them your police, put them in positions of power, and many of them already hate Americans. So you get enough of them armed, and who knows? But here we go.
We're seeing that play out on our streets of New York, and that is what the breaking point looks like, what we are experiencing right now.
This is how
Son
AG1
of a
works to
bitch.
deliver foundational nutrition that tastes great too. Matching that.
So
We're seeing-
he's
we're
saying
seeing,
that New York is at the breaking point.
So is
Yet
Chicago.
there's nobody that has a solution to this. Nobody even wants to. Seems like they want to do anything about it.
Well, I can tell you exactly what's going on, and you're dead on. Look,
Ooh, let's listen to Alex, but let me bring up this scripture first, because he just made me think about something. I think the Texas governor sent the Texas National Guard down to the border, and they basically took over the border and override the border patrol, and they shut down the borders. All right, so Texas is and they also, Texas, just for the information for FYI, Texas also put out legislation to stop those planes flying over Texas that spray out them chemicals is making everybody damn sick. New Hampshire just did the same thing. And the Hebrew Israelites and even some of these so-called truthers have been speaking about these chemtrails and these things flying over that are, messing up this cloud seeding and all this bullshit, which is basically all those metals and chemicals are coming down, getting in your food, your water, your air supply, and it's making everybody sick, including the animals. All right. So, Texas is in a very rebellious insurrection type mode, and which brings to mind Second Ezra, the 15th chapter, when it says, verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right, so you got these military leaders, militias, and a lot of sheriffs who are all basically ready to do exactly what this National Guard unit did, and just stepping up and and being patriots and enforcing the Constitution, because our government, your day-to-day government, does not acknowledge the Constitution. If they did, things, Fauci and a whole lot of things wouldn't have been able to do what they did. All right. As a matter of fact, if the Constitution was honored, the Federal Reserve and the IRS would not be in play either. All right, which is basically the Federal Reserve is basically a fourth branch of government that nobody voted for. Not one American voted for the Federal Reserve, yet they control policy because they're small hatters, and the small hatters control America, and they control Britain, and they control the land of Israel. All right, that's why they got so many organizations and they have dual citizenship, but they're all their loyalty. And all the decisions are made to benefit the land of Israel, and the land of Israel does not benefit America any way whatsoever. All right, like what Taiwan does, and that's a little off subject, but you're gonna have to decide, because you can't defend Israel and defend Taiwan, because without Taiwan, no computers, no cell phones, no cars, no nothing. You won't even be able to operate the MOTB and all that stuff without Taiwan. All right. So the truth of the matter is, Taiwan is more important than Israel, and you're about to lose Taiwan to China. So you got a decision to make. But anyway, I digress.
there's UN documents, and before that, there's a 100-year-old called Kalergi Plan in Europe, and the royalty got together and they said, our people are too uppity, but if we bring in giant third world populations that we control and that we put on government jobs and government assistance, it'll be a new Praetorian Guard force. But it's worth.
And that's basically what Rome did, and they used mainly the Negroes. All right. So when they show you movies, it wasn't until recent years they actually started showing you Roman soldiers as being so-called black people. All right, because if you watch, 1950s, 60s American, 70s and 80s TV, you would never know that so-called black people were even in Rome. All right, and damn, is it me? Is Alex is red as hell today? But anyway, that's a true Edomite. All right. Well, he says he's of native blood, but you know how Esau is. They be claiming it through their mothers and stuff. You can't claim your nationality through your mother. That it doesn't work like that. Nationality and race is through the seed. It's through your father. All right. A woman just brings forth whatever's put in her. She don't bring forth her own people. It don't work like that.
Worse than that. If you go back to the lockdowns that only went on for like a year and a half here or in Europe or Australia, they went on under IMF World Bank control over those countries that are in deep debt to the central banks. They were under 2.5, 3 year lockdowns, and they did big polls of the migrants. And they said, there's no jobs, the farms are shut, the factories are shut, I'm starving to death, I've got to come here. So they're victims of globalism being shut down. And yeah, our country needs new people. We're an aging population. We're not having more children. We're not having replacement rate.
You're not having children because you taught your women to put college in their careers first. And you made having children look like you really made it a bad thing. You made, it's almost shameful if you got children, especially you got children plural. You got 3, 4, 5 children. You looked at like you're a freak of nature when that's still considered a small family, depending on what area you lived in. You go back 100 years, 5 people, 4 or 5 children was a small family, because families had 8, 9, 10 children or more. That was normal.
So I'm all for bringing people in, and immigration is what founded this country, absolutely. But when you organize them in UN camps, give them debit cards to get here, and you bring in millions and millions and millions a year into an infrastructure that's already falling apart, with the services being cut, with massive inflation, it lowers wages. It doesn't help the third world, like Ross Perot said. It hurts the third world. They fall more. We fall down.
Yeah, they fall more too, because if America's not doing good, the rest of the world's not doing good. So Alex is dead on with what he's saying.
And the globalists have this big population, and then all these blue cities have passed laws for illegals to vote in local elections. They're under the control of the local community organizers. They're told how to vote. Now they get fast-tracked to the military. They purge the military with the shots and critical race theory, and so all the prophetic.
Critical race theory, boy, they really don't want the truth about the past of so-called white people here in America, the villainous colonization, the murderous acts that they did. I just watched a video where they hung a man up by his hands, had a suspended, and they whipped him from the front with a whip tore into his chest and in his underarm. You know how painful it is to have a whip hit your underarm where you put your deodorant and rip it open, right? And had them hang. And this was on a barbecue in 1776 when they were misusing the scripture about servants obey thy masters. That scripture was way out of context. That scripture was talking about people who were teaching you who were over you in the word of the Lord. All right? If you were a servant of the Lord. All right? It didn't mean nothing about a slave and its master's relationship. All right? Because that's also in the Bible, and that has to be paid for according to the Bible. All right? According to the Bible, it says, and they would take into captivity those who had them captives, roughly paraphrased. All right? Because the first of the nations, which is Amalek is the first of the nations. That's why they control everything. But they're a part of a bigger race, which is the same race that Alex is a part of. All right? And the scripture clearly says the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So the rest of the Edomites, but what all that happens is that Amalek hogged the blessing from the rest of Edom. That's what they did. They hogged the blessing. And now the rest of Edom is mad at Amalek. And they're a house divided. And a house divided cannot stand. Let me grab that real quick. Real quick, and let Alex speak a little bit more. It's Mark 3:23. Yep, because what he's doing now is casting out Satan. Satan casting out Satan, because the people that he's talking about are his own people that did this. All right, the so-called black man, the so-called Hispanic man, the so-called Native man didn't do this. Hell, even not even the so-called Chinese, Japanese, or Indian man. They didn't do this. The so-called white man is responsible for this chaos and this decay and this failure here in America. Them and him alone, worldwide. All right, the destruction, the pollution, they're responsible for it. But Mark 3:23, and he called them unto himself and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house, being a race, be divided against itself, that house, that race cannot stand. The so-called white race is divided. All right? Because they want to try to make a difference between Amalek and the rest of the Edomites. Right? They want to try to make a difference between northern and southern, between Democrat and Republican, and the heads and the people who run and control those parties are white people, indeed, so-called. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. And so, through all this political and geopolitical malarkey, they're falling, as it is written.
Nationals get out, and then now they're going to replace it with the domestic security force that Obama talked about that's just as big and just as strong as our military. And Illinois and other states are passing laws to have illegal aliens, as your co-host said, be the police. So you nailed it. History doesn't just rhyme, it repeats. Mm-hmm. Rome started doing this, and in a couple hundred years they collapsed because the enforcers they brought in said, hey, we're the bosses.
And America's not going to take that long. America's been through that stage already. America is collapsing now. This is just going to be the icing on the cake, so to speak. The cake has been made. All right? Now they're getting ready to spread the icing and light the candles. And these candles, woo boy.
Well, this won't take hundreds of years. Everything now is compressed. Everything is accelerated. There's more change now in a year than happened the previous 10. And that's going to get more accelerated.
And who's been telling you that? The men of the Lord. The things that are happening now in the world, we saw it clearly 12, 14, 15 years ago. But it took all this time for it to magnify itself and get to this level now, though we saw it clearly back then.
In a type of singularity, I don't believe in a pure singularity or a total singularity, but it's definitely going towards that. So they lock down the third world, and then Al Gore says, man, climate change is what's making 1 billion people, he said last week on TV, come here. Well, it's funny. In the UN replacement migration document that they say doesn't exist, and your races have been pointed out from the year 2000 and 2001, or several of them, official UN policy, is to bring the third world here. And they say climate change will be the reason, then we'll bring them here. No, the policies of shutting those countries down and then flooding us, tens of millions extra starved to death, the UN admits, during the lockdowns. They blame the virus. It was the lockdown. So they destroy the third world and then do reverse colonization, bringing these groups in, and then they put many of them, as you know, working 15 hours a day as young as 12 years old in tire factories and cereal factories, and kids get caught in the machines and their fingers and arms get cut off.
Damn.
And it's back of the newspaper. And then you've got all the sex slavery, and they've lost track of 87,000 children, 400 plus thousand. They don't know where they're at.
Hey, that's why they got tunnels under places of worship in New York. All right, just utter and total chaos, and this and that, and that's exactly what's happening. The second Ezra 15 and 14. Woe unto the world and them that dwell therein. All right. Let me second Ezra 15 and 1. It reads, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people, and the words of prophecy which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and will cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Verse 3, fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speaketh against thee, because the Lord clearly says that no weapon, that's Isaiah 54 and 17, No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. And that's not talking about anybody. That's talking about the Israelites. And not only the Israelites, but the elect. All right. 2 Ezra 16:73 says that, matter of fact, let me get it real quick. And then it'll finish there. 16:73. And it reads, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire, and the fire is coming. So with that, all praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Kwam Yasharallah.